Well, here we are on a Monday afternoon. See, I'm acutely aware I am of what day of the week it is and what time it is, Pat. And only last week you were slandering me and saying I didn't know whether I was coming or going. I know where I am and I know what day of the week it is.
Well, I'm glad you said it was Monday, and I'm glad you said it was Monday afternoon.
It's a good sign. Good sign.
How are you, Jude?
Monday at least. Anyway, what's happening up in Donegal there? Is weather
actually,
good?
It's very nice. By the way, didn't you see the photograph of my house? I've tried to tell you.
Oh yes, I saw your compound. Your compound from
I tried to
here.
explain to you that there's trees all around me, and see on a winter's day, and there's a tree right outside the house. And there was a guy who accused me one day. He said, "Geez, Pat, when you're chatting to Jude, you spend more time looking out the window." But every time there's a wind or a breeze, the tree moves, and you suddenly think there's somebody going past the window.
Oh, but that's so beautiful. That's so beautiful, lad. Yeah, did you get that taken by what do you call it, a drone?
Yeah, there was a guy. Apparently, no, I saw. I was going to say a lawnmower, but it's a helicopter that looks like a lawnmower. No one of them wee small helicopters went over a couple of months ago, and I saw it actually, but I didn't. And anyway, this guy,
a drone? Was it a drone?
A drone? No, it wasn't a drone. It was a helicopter. He actually was on a helicopter, and he took them, and I would say he's gone around half the country around here delivering them. They're not cheap, but anyway, we said right for a one-off, we won't do it again. So we bought that photograph of him. So that was the photograph you've seen.
It must be particularly good, because I know it seems to me I was up, the gold mining thing up in Greencastle up in Tyrone.
Yeah.
The opponents of it. I went up and interviewed a young woman there about, I'd say at least 3 or 4, 5 years ago, maybe. And they had a drone going around photographing the locality.
Yeah.
And if you've noticed, most series now and most movies, no matter how small they are, you can be sure there'll be an opening shot from the air.
An aerial shot, drones are fantastic. They made the skies accessible, haven't they?
But the only thing is, of course, that it also allows people to bomb people and kill people. Disgusting. Okay, Pat. So what item, we've arranged a number of items here. Which one would you like to start with?
Jude, I think the big, if anybody's been on social media over the weekend, the decision last week in America, Roe v. Wade, rescinding of that, has brought abortion big time back center stage. Well, abortion never gone away. I actually told a story in another place. Years ago, I used to fairly regularly appear on Highland Radio on a Friday morning where you'd do the review of the week. Yeah. Now, some weeks it would be very quiet. And it was a sort of call-in program, audience participation, and some weeks it would be very quiet. But all you had to do was mention abortion. And Jude, I am telling you, the studio telephone system, the red lights come on at 100 miles an hour, and it was very, what would you say, divisive. People are, everybody's certain that their view is the correct one, and so on, and so on. And abortion is a very emotive, very divisive, very political, very everything that you can think of. So Jude, 50 years on from Roe v. Wade, it was rescinded last Friday, and now, Jude, I am certain that it's going to reignite or ignite, whichever one you prefer, the whole debate here again.
Well, I think it will. I want to say, first of all, in some ways, I was reluctant to have this as an item because it is so powerful, as you say, that it excites so much involvement, emotion, whatever. And debate and even division, and in the end, nobody changes their mind. Everybody comes out with exactly the same views as they went in. So you sometimes wonder what's the purpose of that anyway. The second thing is the fact that people pile in doesn't mean that they know that much about it or have thought that much about it. A lot of the time we tend, and I wouldn't exclude myself from this, we tend to borrow our views from other things that we've encountered, stuff we've read or seen on TV or whatever. But anyway, it certainly is a big, big issue. Essentially, what it seems to me to be doing in the States is it's allowing each state to decide how much or how little or maybe no abortion will be legal. I gather, for example, Arkansas has outlawed all abortions as of present. And I guess there's others that are states that are at least limiting it pretty drastically. I don't know where to begin with this because, and I suspect that you and I largely agree, but we disagree at a sort of a vital point.
Yeah.
Maybe you explain that part, Pat.
Well, no, for me, like I've said it a million times, and I remember having a really serious discussion with a man I respected greatly. We'll just call him a cleric for want of a better. And I actually said to him, and look, I don't have a daughter, but I said, look, Father, if it came to the whipping of the crutches in my case, say I had a 14 or 15-year-old daughter, she was raped, she got pregnant, and she was sitting on a window looking out at her friends and so on, and it was a summer's day, and she was sort of in depression, and she says, look, I'm going to commit suicide, I can't deal with this or whatever. I said, would it be morally wrong for me to say, well, look, what, okay, I am so concerned about your mental health and about your psychological health. I'm not sure an abortion's the best thing in the world, but if that's what it needs, what do I do? Morally, what do I do? He said to me, Pat, know what I'll say to you? Do what you think is right for your family, and may God go with you. And I thought, that for me, was that. Now, Jude, here's the thing. And this is where I am sitting on the fence and nuanced on it. I don't agree with abortion. I genuinely don't, and I have a big issue with it as well. And I've never voted for it, despite there's been 2 referendums in the Republic of Ireland. But I don't think I have the right to decide for somebody else. Like if you have a daughter, if you know, and no, I shouldn't really bring it, but say anybody has a daughter and anything happens to them, or there's something goes wrong, or there's a fatal, you know, I don't think the next door neighbor has any right to come in and say, oh, by the way, no, you can't do that. That you for your family. And here, the other point, and then this is the final point. There's always this thing about when conception, is it just cells and tissue, or is there a human life there? I have never got a satisfactory answer to that question, you know. But I would hate the idea that we are killing human lives, you know, and so on. But then there are the hard cases, and I have never ever got it clear in my own head what exactly I'm in favor of and what I'm against.
Yeah, I share some of your confusion, to be honest. I'm not sitting on the fence. I think I'm more off the fence perhaps than you are, but I do have, you know, I feel so ignorant about some things, some aspects of it. But I think it's clear, you know, if a woman becomes pregnant, it's clear that after 9 months, all things being equal, she will produce a baby.
Yeah.
Right. And once the baby's out of her womb, you know, nobody would dream of killing. Well, there might be some people who dream of killing it, but, you know, nobody would dare say we should have a law that allows the mother or the father to kill this baby if they want to. No, that just would be inconceivable. No. So then you could back off from that and say, well, how about 2 weeks before the baby's born? Would that be okay? Or even 1 week before the baby's born? Again, most people would say, I think virtually everybody would say, no way, you can't do that. So then you back up and you get to a point where you say, when is it? I think most people who favor abortion or believe in abortion rights, if you want to put it that way, believe that at one stage the fetus isn't human, and then near birth it becomes human. Now, that's the point where I tend to leave it. I just can't see that. Nobody has ever satisfactorily explained to me at what point it becomes goes from non-human to human. And you know what little I know of it, as I say, I'm not medical or I'm not really versed in the whole thing. But as I understand it, when the sperm fertilizes the egg, that creates a cluster of DNA, a set of DNA.
Yeah,
which is unique to that person. It's like their fingerprints. It's something that's never existed before, and it's not going to exist again. This particular cluster of DNA, and to me, it seemed logical in a way to say, well, okay, if we're going to arrive at a clear starting point, that's the starting point. That's when the human being begins. But then people would say, well, you saying that's a child, that little cluster, but you know, where do you see?
Yeah, well, I don't think you see, Jude. I am exactly the same as you. Right, let's move on, because I don't think either you nor me are medical people. But just for the sake of debate, there was a guy on your thread you put up a post on Saturday on your blog, right? There's a guy come on and he had an absolutist position. He said that no man has any right to tell any woman that she's the one's going to carry the baby. She's the one's probably going to have lifelong responsibility for it. She's the one whose body, who could die giving birth to it. She's the one, who will have to carry it for 9 months as well, that it could interrupt her life, her career, her education, anything. Men can have the pleasure of doing the sex act and walk away. And he says, what right has any man to tell a woman under those circumstances, oh, by the way, I can decide for you what you're going to do, and so on. And then there's the other side. There was a woman I read on Saturday as well. She took the absolutist position on the other side, that irrespective of whether it's a rape, incest, fatal fetal abnormalities, or whatever, abortion is wrong in each and every circumstance. Now, Jude, there can't be much more polar than that.
Yeah, it's difficult. You see, one of the things that you mentioned, like if you had a daughter, and you're right, when things come to our own door, we tend to look at them differently.
Absolutely.
But what you see, sometimes the way we look at them might be the wrong way. For example, if I'm trying to think of something now, if my son murdered somebody, right, and I knew it, and he came into the house and he said, I want to escape, will you tell lies to the cop when he comes to the door? I almost certainly would. But I'd be doing the wrong thing. Wrong.
But here's the thing, Jude, here's a question I'm going to throw at you, and then we probably move on, because we're not going to add too much to some of this. Do you believe that things like abortion, contraception, divorce are private moral matters, and that we should all be allowed to make up our own minds and live with the consequences? Or do you think they're issues for the whole of society, and society should be allowed to stick their oar in?
I think, in fact, I'd be convinced that there are matters that affect all of society. I mean, if you take divorce, clearly it has an effect in society. I mean, it's not just the individual, there's any number of individuals. So, it does change life for...
But here's the point. If I found out my wife was having an affair with a 19-year-old golf pro, and that
I'm thinking of somebody, I'm not thinking of your wife, but I'm thinking of a certain
I shouldn't have really said that out loud, but it did come into my head. Anyway, or that, what do you call it, that I've discovered she's a lesbian, and she doesn't like men or something, I'm making it hypothetical. If I've got married to this woman and discovered that I've been totally conned, am I supposed to, because you don't believe in divorce, am I supposed to sit there and live my life, the rest of my life, with this woman because society says...
You may be right. You may be right. I really don't know the answer to that. I do know that hard cases make bad laws. If we take
but they're also realities for many people too.
They are. Oh, of course, absolutely. And if I was in your shoes, or if that happened to me, I would also feel. I probably would just simply act. But it's a difficult one. I think we do need to keep our eye on the social aspect of things. Because this notion that you allow people to make up their own mind, we don't do that, in the vast majority of cases. Like, we don't allow people to make up their own minds whether they put on their seatbelt. We don't allow them to make up their minds whether they'll sell out of date food. But is that a moral issue? Like, if me and my wife decide we're going to have contraception, is that any of your business? Well, I suppose it's not. I think contraception is another matter. Contraception is slight.
But see, different matter from divorce. They're all moral issues.
You see the social aspect of divorce.
I could argue that. Look, Jude, if I want to divorce my wife, not to do with Jude Collins or Maureen Collins, it's between me and Rosie. If I want contraception, like say we had 7 kids and we don't want any more, you have no right to decide what the government, by the way, and the Republic for years decided that we couldn't. And there are all these, and then abortion. If my wife is, the doctors tell me that she's in serious illness and there's a possibility of such and such, or there's fatal fetal, which I am aware of in my family circle in the past. Like, No, who gives somebody down the road to say, "Oh no, Pat, you have no right to an abortion, or you shouldn't be supporting that"?
Well, if I could just, that fetal abnormality, I think a man that we both knew, and may God be good to him, was it James Dornan, Dr. James
Jimmy
Dornan?
Dr. Jimmy
I think he was the
Dornan.
one who said at a meeting that there wasn't such a thing as, no medical condition known as fetal abnormality. What it is referring to is the fact that the doctors judged that this child, this baby or this fetus may die before the woman comes to full term, or increased chances of it. There's increased chances that the child might die during birth, and there's a very high possibility that the child won't survive for longer than maybe
48
a
hours
day or a week or whatever. But it's not a condition. They don't actually know. So I find it very hard to say, because this kid is going to have at best, a very short and very handicapped life, that therefore it's okay to kill him. You know, I couldn't go along with that. I don't think I could.
No, neither could I. But that's not the point. There's there are other people who have been in that position. Yeah, I think the decision should be left to them, not up to me or you.
Yeah, it's a
the option should be for them, Jude. Imagine you're what do you call it? You're 3 months into their pregnancy, and somebody comes along, the consultant comes along and says, "Look, there's a fair chance that this child will die within the next week or so, or before birth, or shortly." And you face into the fact that I am going to have to carry. If you're a woman, and I'm going to have to carry this child for 9 months, I think that the choice should be hers, not yours, not mine.
Well, when it comes back to it, you see it all. This is what I say. At the heart of this thing is whether you believe it's a human life in there or not.
Yeah.
And if it's not a human life, then definitely, I totally agree. No woman should have to go through that kind of pain and agony for months on end.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, if it is a human life, then that's a game changer.
But you see, the problem, we come back to it every time, it's this absolute position. And there's nothing in human life as simple, nothing is black and white, not as far as, most of these things you can argue from A to B or A to Z, and then back the way Z to A, and, come to the same, reach your own conclusions.
The one thing I'll say, this is my last point, and this then we'll go on. Is this thing where we say the woman is the one affected, and that's right. I mean, the woman carries the baby. The woman usually has to look after the baby after birth and raise the child, but that's not good. That's bad, because the man is involved in the creation of the child.
Yeah,
I say if a man is involved in the creation of the child, he therefore carries certain responsibilities and certain rights. Yeah. So the notion that this is my baby and I can do with what I like, or whatever, the man has no say, I don't buy that. I mean, if a man has been involved in the creation of this, whatever it is, he's part of it. And the fact that he doesn't help whenever the baby is born, most men, including myself, I'm going to use a rude word there, but are useless at fulfilling the role as fathers as they should do. That doesn't make it, therefore you say, well, only the woman can decide. I think what we should be focusing on is men doing their part, their responsibilities.
Absolutely.
Come with the
But have you ever watched things like Long Lost Families, where kids are adopted, and we're going back, usually 60s and the 70s and all the rest of it?
I haven't seen
the absolutely brilliant programs, but frequently, and I mean frequently, when I've informed my boyfriend that I was pregnant, he didn't want to know. That's a normal, a recurring theme.
But that I think that strikes me as being the essence of selfishness.
Yeah, absolutely.
And sort of stupidity too, to not realize that you have to have responsibility. See, I suppose if you're irresponsible, like, I'll drive my car at 100 miles an hour, and if I get away with it, great. Or I'll do what I want. And don't you tell me what to do.
Exactly.
There's a certain attraction to that cavalier, buccaneer attitude, but it's wrong.
Yeah,
I think it's wrong.
Absolutely. It's wrong. Of course it's wrong. Yeah.
Right. Okay, let's leave this rather depressed. See, we get nowhere at the end of it all, and there's so many other points you could want to bring up.
Absolutely.
But it's frustrating. It's frustrating. but it's going to be a big issue. It's going to be a big issue. It's a big issue already in the States, and you may be sure it'll be a big issue here.
Yeah.
I think the tide of history, for better or worse, is towards the legalization and the more widespread availability of abortion. I could be wrong, but it does look that way. Anyway, let's move to another topic. We talked about this man last Friday, and I'm wondering if we could talk about him again. MICK Lynch. What a great name.
Absolutely. By the way, I discovered or read somewhere his mother is from Cork. His father is from Cork. And guess where his mother's from?
Donegal.
No, Crosby Glen. No wonder he is the way he is.
I think that should disqualify him from having any role in British life of any kind.
Crosby Glen.
Even as a sweeper of the road.
One of the things I wanted to bring up, we sort of got past him a wee bit on Friday, but here's the point. He has come out, he has sort of galvanized and sort of basically public opinion. There was a sort of an agreement with the media and the sort of the establishment that they come at things a certain way. But Lynch has seemed to have sort of been the catalyst for actually bringing back the class war, because he's actually really taken the fight to the establishment. He destroyed 3 or 4. Now, Jude, interviewers last week, imagine one of them starts an interview. Are you a Marxist? Not anything to do with the strike. Nothing to do with it. The first question, Kay Burley, sort of, are you, she brought, and Sky, she brought in this visions of the miners. Though I think the miners' strike, and I think she was trying to suggest the pickets would be violent. Though, Jude, that has gone, that particular dispute has gone considerable revisionism, and the establishment didn't come out very well. But anyway, Jude, here's the point. He made the point, and I looked it up. There are now 177 billionaires and additional in Britain, and they have their combined fortune of 653 billion, up 55 billion from last year. He said that, and the average chief executive earns 63 times the median wage of the average worker. And Bojo and these guys, the absolute clowns, have known the red wall seats who vote for the Tories. You go, are you people idiots? Do you seriously think the Bullington Club and the Eton millionaires are going to look after you? And they've almost convinced that the people in the north of England that socialism is bad news and capitalism is good. And like, look at the disparity. And you go, there's something seriously wrong with the education system. If the working class in Britain buy this bullshit.
But you see, we're all, well, you know, because you did an MA in cultural studies or media studies, that the way questions are framed and how the whole issue of conflict of this kind, say the miners, or not the miners, the railway workers, the way it's framed, that's what decides how people think about it. And he is bust through that. I looked, in fact, I put it up on my Facebook, 3 instances, 2 of them you've mentioned, and there was a third one, I've forgotten who it was, but he refuses to, just 2 things. One is he says things that other people would hesitate to say on TV. And the second thing is he remains calm. He refuses to be flustered. He refuses to get emotional. He just very firmly states, like, for example, the third one of those that I saw today, there's somebody on with him and he says, no, it was a government spokesman. And he says, no, that's a lie. You're a liar.
That was on Newsnight.
And he kept on saying, you're a liar. You held your breath. What's going to happen? You see, the parameters of sort of discourse on the media is you don't call anybody a liar. It's not, and for years, and Keir Starmer plays that game, and that the sort of the rules, Jude, are sort of so prescribed that it helps the establishment. Your man's not playing that game and he's destroying them, because suddenly the class war is back out in the open. Yeah, and I was delighted that he called out, as they now say, that he called out the Labour Party. I mean, the clue is in the name, the Labour Party, which would see itself as having betrayed the people of Britain if any of its members were seen on the picket line.
Isn't that unbelievable? Keir Starmer said that any Labour Party frontbencher who went to the picket line would be dismissed. You know, a Labour dispute, and this is like, you know, the Blairite faction have taken over, and you know, the Labour Party, I don't know who the hell they represent anymore.
But you see, I think he might be right too. That's the terrible thing. He believes that for Labour to win an election, it's got to move to the centre. It's got to shed itself of all these Corbynite, left-wing history, miners' strike, etc. You must move to a Blairite position, and that's how you win elections. And you know, Blair did win 3 elections. So if all you really care about is winning elections, then Starmer is probably right in his instincts. But maybe if you care about actually the truth and working for the people who have supported you, or, you know, that's helped your party, and if your name is Labour Party, I think you should be looking to their interests first, and then your electoral prospects can flow from that.
Yeah, but if you think about it, what if you go to the centre and you're so marshmallow and woolly about everything? What's the point? Sure, you know, it's a meaningless party then. You know, so what is it? Somebody says that the person who stands for nothing will fall for anything.
Well, I think the best way to decide that is to say to yourself, was it good that Blair replaced the Tories in 1997?
Well, David Cameron replaced Tony Blair, and if you ask me what the difference between the two was, I couldn't tell you.
Somehow, you see, I agree with you, and yet somehow the media have convinced me that Blair was a better thing. Maybe he was a more cheerful chappy. Maybe he was a better way with words. Maybe he seemed more user-friendly. I don't know what it is, but I tend to, despite the horrible things he did, like Iraq and all the rest of it, that I find myself favouring him.
Have you asked yourself, am I better off today than I was, say, 4 years ago? Can I buy things more in the shops? Is the UK more respected on the world stage? Is the economy stronger? You know, you sort of, have you, prior to Brexit, have you asked yourself all of those 3 or 4 questions I've just asked you? I'd say you'd answer absolutely no way. I don't think you're better off today than you were 4 years ago. I don't think the country's in a better position. I don't think the economy's in a better position. And I don't think the UK, seeing you live in the occupied part, is more respected.
You're right. But I'll tell you this, Pat, I'll say something now, and I'm sure people will detest me for saying it. But do you remember De Valera's famous speech about the crossroads?
The comely maidens dancing at the
comely
crossroads.
Maidens and manly youths, or whatever. People laugh at that and say, you know, get a grip, Dev. You know, you're not living in the 20th century and so on. They're half right. I admire Dev for having proposed a different image of what life's about. In a way, he was talking about how he saw Irish society.
Yeah.
The fact is, we are talking, when you were just talking just now about Blair and Cameron, you were talking about which of the two managed the economy the better. You weren't saying who would change the whole aspect of life, or various aspects of life, so that it works better. See, I'm convinced of that. You know, capitalism, when you see it in its extreme form, is a horrible, horrible bloody thing.
Yeah.
And we get sucked into all sorts of situations like wars, because in the name of freedom / capitalism, America equals freedom. It doesn't mean you know. So maybe I'm too radical, but I'd like to see some party, and that's maybe what your man Mick Lynch is hinting at, that a party that actually has a different vision of how things should be. Boris tells us he'll change society. How is he going to do it? He's going to level up. What a load of crap.
That will never happen. Never happen.
You've just said the billionaires. You've said the number of billionaires, how much they're does he say he's going to make everybody a billionaire?
Not at all.
That's what leveling up would mean.
Sure, he's actually trying to smear the real workers whose pay levels have gone down amazingly in the last 3 or 4 years, with inflation running at what, 8.9% or something.
Yeah.
You know, and he's trying. They're trying to keep sort of inflation down on the backs of the workers.
Okay, we have about 3 minutes. Dare I suggest that we talk briefly about FINTAL, TOOLE? I had an article in the Irish Times today. I don't know if you saw it. where he talked about, well, he talked about how life has changed in the south of Ireland, the semi-liberated part of Ireland. That in 1991, I think he said only 14% of people had third level education. Now it's 40%. He says that women are far more involved in the workforce now. And as a result of that, they're having smaller families. He says in 1991, 75% of people went to church, and now just 30% go to church. He says there's problems still, of course, like housing and economic, well, he says economic equality. Well, I thought that was a laugh. But those things and housing and health are still needed, but that there has been these revolutions. Would you say that, Pat? You've lived in the free part of Ireland years. You tell me, has a revolution? He calls it a quiet revolution.
That is, you know, even you just said something right. 3 of my family have MAs. Nobody in my mother's and father's generation went to college. Nobody, not one, not a single one. And my own family, I went to third level education for a while, and so that's about it. So there's been a lot of change. Micheál Martin was on, I think yesterday or the day before, and he was talking about Ukraine's application to join the EU, and he says the Irish entry to the EU was an absolute catalyst for the change in Ireland for the better. And he says he doesn't understand how anyone can deny another country the right to join a unity where the things can they can be improved. There's a lot of things have changed for the better. There's no doubt about that. Even you know, I remember when I was a young fellow, my father, if we were going to Dublin, he said, "I'll wait till we get into the north and the good roads." It's all the way around now. Wait till you get into the south and the good roads. Exports are way up. Unemployment is way up. Immigration is stopped. Economically, we're doing, how long it lasts, I don't know.
But is life
better? The education system is definitely much improved.
But Pat, is life better?
That's a very good question, Jude. You know, I would say it has. Yeah, it has to have, Jude. Yeah.
Oh, TOOLE claims that people are more anxious now. They're more worried about things. They're less secure.
When you have more to lose, Jude.
I suspect what he was getting at there was the possibility of Sinn Féin getting into power.
Oh yeah, that worries a lot of the more right-wing people.
He didn't name them, but I suspected that that was part of the subtext, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, Pat. A joke, a riddle, a conjuring trick.
So some of these days, me and you will actually have a joke to tell at the end of the show.
Maybe they think we're a big enough joke as it stands.
As it could well be, Jude.
Okay, Pat. All the best. Thank you.
Catch you later. Good luck.